of this God, Thomas Aquinas, member of my order and certainly a great intellectual thinker, as I would see it, famously said, "We cannot know what God is, but only what he is not." I suspect, as Herbert McCabe, the man who taught me my philosophy and theology, did, I suspect that when atheists say they don't believe in God, what they mean is they don't believe in any gods, and neither do I suspect when Dawkins rejects the idea of a God, he's rejecting a top person in the universe. And the evidence for this is very strong. Dawkins offers just one argument. Actually, he doesn't really spell it out, because in fact, if you were to spell it out, you would see immediately that its premises are wildly question-begging. He offers one argument, that God probably doesn't exist, and it's this: whatever creates something must be more complicated than what it creates. And so, whatever accounts for the world must be more complicated than the world is, and therefore ultimately implausible. Now, I think he's right. If something's very complicated, it stands in need of an explanation. If God is more complicated than the world, it doesn't explain the world at all. God doesn't explain the world at all. What we need is some explanation that doesn't stand in need of further explanation. Some point at which the buck stops. Now, the Christian God, the God which the Christian philosophers have argued for in their arguments, is that kind of buck, point at which the buck stops. The explanatory buck stops. Aquinas thinks God is simply whatever it is that accounts for the existence of the world that we see. Now, he thinks it couldn't just be the universe itself. It couldn't just be quantum mechanics. Because we can deduce certain things about God simply from the fact that he is the point at which the buck stops, the explanatory buck. The main point is, he can't be any object in the universe, and he can't be metaphysically composite. He can't be made up of parts, even intellectually speaking. God must be ultimately simple. So I think there are good reasons to believe in a God like that, even if you think, as I do, that science is true. I revel in the rationality that science brings to all sorts of parts of our lives. When a humanist friend was discussing with me the whole progress of intellectual history, he said to me, "We're more rational nowadays than we used to be." And I burst out laughing. And he said to me, "So you don't think that?" And I said, "No, I don't. The fastest growing section in any modern bookshop is what? Body, mind, and spirit. A whole lot of rubbish about astronomy, astrology, and feng shui, and crystals, and a whole lot of superstitious rubbish. Anti-rational rubbish. That's not to be welcomed. We want science, but we don't want it as the only source of truth, because it can't, even formally speaking, answer all the questions.